Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Morning Cup. I am so honored today because I have Rebecca with me. Rebecca is an ex-finance executive turned fulfillment coach. She leveraged her years of consistently creating a sense of purpose within her corporate teams into partnering with successful leaders to create a life of purpose so they can feel like themselves again. She has her MBA and CPA. Her experience includes leading teams of 20 people or more at a Fortune 50 company, international work, and decades of pursuing what was right in front of her and seemingly more enjoyable than what others had instead of what she wanted. Currently, she's helping her clients not only just improve their relationships that are at risk, but also being able to help train for her first 50-mile ultra marathon. Oh my goodness. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here today.
I'm thrilled.
So I would love for you to kind of just dive into your journey, how you got here today, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper.
Sure. I am your run-of-the-mill, highly driven, go, 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 Energizer bunny person, right? I worked full time, took 18 credits, did the whole nine, got the job. Oh, there's this high paying position you can have that you might enjoy. Let's go after it, right? Like go, 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 do the things. They need me here. I'll go do that. And had a pretty good time. Honestly, I had a great time for a while. But you know, I don't know, every couple of years I would kind of wonder, right? I love numbers, but I really loved my team. I loved the people that I was working with. And that's kind of why I kept trying to climb the ladder. I thought, oh, the next step will give me like the power or the scope to do what I want with the people, right? Like I'll have more authority. And it just didn't end up really happening that way. So at some point, I hired my own coach, right? Did a whole bunch of experimentation and trials and trying to figure out to feel certain, right? As certain as one can feel when trying to change careers, and realize, I would have majored in leadership if it was an option, and it wasn't. And here someone was kind of making a living doing that. Why not? Not getting any younger. Let's go for it.
You just went for it. You were able to really see, okay, what if being able to dive into the personal development world, getting your own coach, really seeing there's other options. It's not just go to school, get the good job, and then you're set for life. I mean, that's what I thought too. And, it all shifted, but being able to really lean into that and the curiosity of it as well, of just knowing that there was something more and you were meant for more in a different capacity in the leadership world, but also being able to really connect with people versus just the numbers aspect as well. Because I think it's important, women in finance and women to really like shed light on numbers because it's not as talked about. I've met some phenomenal women like yourself as well in the finance world, but shifting it and really bringing knowledge to it. But I would love to hear more about your coaching and what you do now and what really led you to, once you went through your own personal journey, and to make it into a business.
Yeah. So I now help clients mostly one-on-one. I do a little bit of corporate work and I do a little bit of group work, but it's mostly one-on-one. And my coaching is ontological coaching. So it's a little bit hokey, because it's all about your being, right? It is about mindset shift and goals and execution, because I'm a driven person. But it's also, as I'm sure you can relate to, right? It's all about who we be. How do we want to show up and how does that contribute to everything? So I help my clients achieve their goals. And along the way, the magic is, how are they getting in their own way by how they're showing up or what they're bringing into the situation. So they build momentum a lot faster. And ideally, they need me less, right? Because they can see how they're getting in their way. Of course, we all level up and face bigger amounts of fear, and then they can keep you on. But the idea is kind of, maybe they don't need me, I guess.
Yes. And that's the perfect place to be as a coach. You want to see them thrive and succeed. So I would love for you to share maybe one or two client success stories that you've had in the past or recently.
So I had a client who came to me, wasn't even sure really like what they wanted, right? Or whatever, just knew they wanted things to be different. They knew me. So they were like, okay, why not? And I mean, one of the things that had come out during even one of our first meetings, right, when we were talking about, this is a safe space to talk about whatever you want, right? Because a lot of us have a hard time voicing what we actually want, especially if we think it might rock the boat a little bit, because then our spouses or our kids or our friends even can say, well, how are you going to do that? Or when are you going to do that? Right? Like, do you have all the ducks in a row? So one of the things that had come out was like this love of working with kids. And they were so taken back, right, by the idea that they would actually want to do that, because they were in a totally technical field, right? Killing it at their career, adding value. This came out of left field. And while it didn't end up like a career shift, it was a shift of bringing in more of that, right? So volunteering and coaching and spending a lot more time with their kids. They still kept their job because they still really love that as well. But the recognition of what they wanted, and then the work we did to create the boundaries, right? And the priorities, and this is okay to have what I want. And then to see them do it and their work benefited from it, right? Because the person had more capacity at work, and they really showed up when they were at work because they knew they were going to go do this other thing, as well as, I can't tell you how many times they would come to me and say, oh, I had this great idea while I was coaching my kids, right? That they probably wouldn't have stuck at their desk. So that's kind of, it was beautiful, right? It was absolutely beautiful. And then there's, I had another client who, ended up leaving their job, right? They had been similar kind of to me. They had been in there with their employer for a long time. They didn't know if they wanted to leave. They came with similar burnout type of issues. And through the work that we did, they realized what they, again, right, like what they really wanted. So they wanted a culture that not everybody like needed to work all the hours, even though people did. It was by choice rather than, I don't want to use the word enslavement, right? But feeling like you had to. It was something that people kind of leaned into. It was also, they wanted to get into like the green space because that was important for them. So they shifted from where they were into a more climate friendly company who was working on that. And so it just like, again, right, it all lined up. It was progress. Again, what am I worth? How do I even find a job? It's in a different industry. What skills do I have? A lot of times we think we're only capable, or people will even think that we're only capable of what we've done, and we can't see for ourselves how what we've done applies all over the place.
That's so beautifully said. A lot of times we have the skill sets. We might have not done the job yet or done the business yet, but being able to kind of take a step back and look at like, okay, do I have that's valuable that I can offer? Whether it's just people skills, I mean, that's good for everything, but being able to switch from maybe a corporate job to something more in the green space, and like using all those skills that you learn in a corporate job to apply that into your own business or a different type of industry. And that's okay, because we're always growing and evolving and learning as humans. We're not like, okay, this is the end be all everything. Like, I know when I left therapy, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, coaching is so different. And like, now I'm in solar and like just very different things in life. But being able to recognize too, you just take those skill sets. And I love that you brought that up, because a lot of people might be afraid to make that jump or think, okay, well, can I really do this? But it goes back to just being and listening to what you truly want, as what you're saying. And I think sometimes, when do we really ask ourselves that? Like, I had somebody I was speaking to a few months back, and they were saying, when's the last time somebody as an adult was asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, oh, that's a good question. But it kind of aligns with what you're saying. And that's what I think. But really, what do you want? What do people want? And I love that you guide your clients to doing that. And that's two beautiful examples of what you've been able to help guide your clients with as well.
Thanks. It's also, I think, important for people to remember, right? I mean, half the jobs people have didn't exist when we were, what do we want to be when we grow up, right? Like, so how do you even know? You have to give yourself the grace and the permission that you couldn't have known because it wasn't there.
Exactly.
Anyway, soapbox, sorry.
No, I love it. So I'm curious too, because you've had a lot of success with your clients. What has been maybe with building your business when you did jump from corporate to having your own business? What were some roadblocks that you experienced that really were a great lesson?
So as an introvert, and somebody who stayed at the same company for as long as I did, the sales, right? And the putting yourself out there and the reaching out to people. And I mean, I would say starting your own business is worth it just for the self-growth, right? You learn who you are, what you're capable of very quickly, and how adaptable you are, because you have to do the things that you probably didn't have to do. So there was a lot that was like the biggest. Oh, I have to sell stuff in order to coach. Oh, wait, I have to sell myself in order to coach.
I believe it. It is difficult, especially like I'm an extrovert introvert, but I know like it is challenging. I come across a lot of individuals that are more introverted, and it is a struggle in the beginning, but you're right. There's so much growth to be had, and putting yourself in that uncomfortable situation, you just learn so much. And like what works for you might not work for somebody else, and that's okay. But like really just allowing yourself the opportunity to at least try, put yourself out there. Scary, but it's fun.
Yes, absolutely. And people are so nice. I can't even tell you the first like people that I met where I was like, oh, I quit my job 2 weeks ago. Like, and they're full of resources, right? And help and everybody. It is, people want to help. It is beautiful if you're open to it.
Exactly. We just have to ask. That's all.
Yeah.
Because no one can read our minds.
No, unfortunately, they cannot.
Oh, I love that you are into running or the ultra marathon. I would love to hear a little bit about that. My brother's actually training for something similar, so I'm curious because I'm sure people listening too, the dedication, the work that goes into that. I'm just curious what that
So
looks
it's
like.
our first one. I've done 2 marathons before. My boyfriend does Spartan races. So he's done like longer length races, but they included obstacles. And this is something that like was, I guess, on my lifetime bucket list, right? Like at some point I will do this. My boyfriend is a doer, right? You check that thing off the list. We're not getting any younger. We should pick one and sign up for it. Let's go. And so we made the decision to sign up for one. It's out in Portland. And it's 50 miles. And I think right about now, or maybe 2 weeks ago, we were like, what have we done? This is, not only is it tiring and tough, but it's also a lot of time, right? I mean, we ran 30 miles, right, in one go 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it takes forever, right? It takes 5 hours, whatever it takes. And that's your day, your Saturday gone. So there's a little bit of, was this the right call? But now, you know, we're like 6 weeks out, so we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So now it's getting to be okay.
It takes a lot of strength and courage to do that. Just like with coaching, putting ourselves out there to really help others that where we were and being able to help them see the light in any capacity of what they truly want to do. And I'm curious, if you were to look back when you started your business and now, what has been maybe 2 or 3 pivotal moments where you're like, okay, I'm not sure if I want to keep going, but this is exactly where I need to be?
I feel like I had a lot of those. I would have those days, right, where you're sending messages or you're meeting with people and they're just not interested, or it's not the right time, right? Or Christmas is happening and you're like, oh, nobody's thinking about coaching now. And then somebody comes out of the blue, right? Somebody who received a message from you, I don't know, 2 months ago says, oh, I see this, like, you're probably not doing this now, but like, what are you doing? Or, I'd love to hear about it now. And you're kind of like, yes, right? The universe is sending me a crumb or a cracker or whatever it is. So I think those definitely help. And when you're coaching somebody, right? I mean, even when you have one of those, I'm sure you can relate, those discovery calls, and you're like, yeah, this is why I do this work, right? As a client, because I have my own coach, I know every conversation is not like that, right? Like, not every conversation is a breakthrough or fabulous, right? It's enjoyable, we make progress. But when you have those like conversations where your client just like blooms or blossoms, right? Or sparkles in front of you, you're like, oh yes, this is why I am doing all of this. I had one just recently and it was, yes.
Those moments are important to recognize too, especially when you might, like, in the journey of entrepreneurship, there's ups and downs, but like having those moments of like, I'm on the right track, like I love what I'm doing, and having those little moments trickle in. It's like celebrating those little wins that are massive wins sometimes, but being able to recognize them and acknowledge them, because we could get in our own way if we're thinking of like, oh, I have this, this, and this, instead just focusing on like the present moment. And it sounds like that happened with your client recently as well, just being able to watch your client bloom from all the work that you've been doing together.
Yeah, I mean, celebration is key. That's right, because we skip over it. We keep looking for the next thing. And celebrating those milestones are huge, especially if you're, kind of on your own doing it.
Yes.
It helps.
It does help. And with your journey of entrepreneurship, what has been maybe your experience of just as you've gone through and really helping your clients, really understanding them? Has there, like, from when you started till now, what has been maybe, what was the push for you to really start your own business?
Had shifted roles where I was, and I was in a position that wasn't going to last forever, right? And typically I would have just stuck it out and whatever. But this time I wasn't interested in that. And he knows this. I had a call with someone who was no longer on my team, hadn't actually even really been on my team, had just like sat in the office near me and knew me and had reached out, or somebody had said like, oh, I think they're going through a hard time or something, right? Like they might benefit from, talking to somebody, right, outside of where they are. So I got on a call with this person and we had this conversation that we had. And I had already thought like, okay, I want to do coaching. There's this coaches training program I want to do, right? And then it was like the first of those conversations where I had it with him and I was just, this is it. This is what I want to be paid to do. And it was just eye-opening it, because it was probably the first coaching sort of like conversation that wasn't about like the numbers or I don't know. There was something about it where I left that and I called my coach and I was like, oh, that's what I want. That's what I want more of. And from there, it got to the point where I didn't think that I could do both. I didn't see a way where I could maintain my reputation, right? And live up to my boss's expectations and support them the way that they needed to and pursue coaching. It felt like it was going to be either or. And so, again, like not getting any younger, don't have kids yet. We may as well make a go of this now versus later. But I mean, and he knows like that conversation I had with him was very pivotal. It was like like everything came together in that conversation.
And timing's everything. Just being able to really realize too, with this new position that you got in the trajectory of that, of where it was going to be going or not going, and really just listening to yourself too, trusting like, all right, let's try this. I mean, the worst that can happen, it doesn't work out, but you at least put it out there, and then it has been successful because you did take that step, which is amazing. And I think that's what it's about too, trusting ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Listening, right? It's in there. Right? Your voice, your gut, whatever it is that you call it, it's in there. It knows. You just have to quiet the noise, as they say, and kind of listen to it.
Yeah, the noise can get loud sometimes. So we gotta like push it to the side, listen to ourselves.
Yeah.
But if you were to look back when you did start your journey, what are 2 or 3 things that you wish you would have known in the beginning that you know now?
One of them you talked about earlier, right? So you have to find what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do live, some people do networking, some people do messaging, cold calling, right? Whatever it is, it's going to work for you. Just try the different things. And when you find something and you go, oh, that was fun, right? Like stick with that. Don't keep trying things just because other people are trying them. If it doesn't resonate, trust again, right? Yourself and what you know, and lean into that. One of the other things is who you are. It can be who you are, so you can leave the 80-hour work week behind you, and if you're not diligent about it, you can be that same person, right? I took the leap because I wanted more balance, I wanted more time, and I wanted to help people. It means you have to be diligent about it, right? Even more so in entrepreneurship, because if you're not working, you're not technically, right, at some point making any money. So you have to be conscious of who you are, and what your patterns are, and are they serving you? Because you can end up right in the same burnt out spot again, even if you're doing work you love. It's just doing it. Just doing it and trusting people that they're going to give you the grace that you're new, right? Or they're not going to hold it against you, or not everything has to be perfect, or they don't expect it to be perfect. Right. With certain things, I definitely leaned into that. And then with others, I held it and I still wanted it to be perfect, or I wanted to feel ready before I was doing it. And you just can't set yourself a deadline, right? And say, okay, I can, try and get myself ready until this date. And if I still don't feel ready, oh, well, I'm just going to do it, anyway. I think those are the 3 big things.
Those are all huge things. And it goes back to like trusting yourself, of knowing it doesn't have to be perfect, because I run into that a lot with a lot of different entrepreneurs that like networking or clients or any capacity, but really understanding if we don't do it, how is it going to get better? You can see the progress. When I started this YouTube channel, I like cringe at some of the first episodes I had. And now I'm like, wow, there's been so much growth and so much more to come. But it's just seeing that evolution. I'm sure too, like when you had started and now looking back of like how much you've grown or your clients have grown, it's just a testament too of how we can grow. It's not staying stagnant. We're
always growing, always growing. And you can't compare yourself to the person, right, who's been doing it for 10 years. You got to go find, if you can, right, go find their Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, right, from 5 years ago, and look at that, right, and measure yourself against that versus, Tony Robbins, who's been doing it for 20 years or whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just, you can't compare yourself to anybody else except ourselves. And I hear you saying that too. It's just focus in on where you're at and like look at where maybe you see somebody that's a couple steps ahead of where you want to go. So it's more tangible versus like Tony Robbins, who's been doing it like decades, it's a little different.
It's very different. And there was this one in one of the books I had read, right? He had said, if you feel called to serve, like you have that because someone needs you to serve, and kind of keep that in mind, right? As business as well. If you have an idea that needs to come to life, there's a reason that you have that idea. I have to remind myself, but it's been very, very helpful.
It's a good reminder for us all to take into account. But I've been enjoying this conversation so much, Rebecca, but we're going to jump into the rapid fire questions if you're ready for them.
Sure. Yes.
Okay. The first question is, what motivates you to work smarter?
I have ADHD and I'm lazy, so I don't like to do the same thing twice. So I want to figure out the most efficient way to get it done. It's just my natural tendency, whatever that is, hiring a VA, a system, do it all in one batch, whatever it is that I can't be doing. Like, I can't be wasting time.
Well, that makes sense. It's how you get everything done that you do. So if you were a superhero, what would be your power or powers?
flying. I love sailing through the air. I love aerial yoga. I love trapezing. I would fly if I could.
Oh, I love that. How fun. It sounds very relaxing too. Right about now.
Yeah.
What is the most daring thing you've ever done?
So I would say leaving my job and starting the business is one of them. And jumping out of a plane, right? When I was, I don't know, 23 or 24. That's like one side of the coin. And then the other side is the starting the business.
Both very daring things. And what is the phone app that you use the most?
So right now it's kind of tied between Words with Friends and Chrome, if you don't count Netflix, because I fall asleep to Grey's Anatomy. So I have it in my ears and that's what puts me to sleep. So I'm not watching it, but she does put me off to sleep.
That's unique. I haven't heard that one before. Well, I'm glad it works for you. It gets you to sleep. That's all that matters.
That's right now. Yes.
And what is the last book that you've read or listened to?
So the last book that I listened to was actually the Wim Hof book, the Iceman book, about his breathing and his cold showers and plunges and all of that. And the last book was Rising Strong by Brene Brown.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. I just reread that. And what is your favorite way to spend a day off if you're not seeing clients, you're not working on the back end of things? What do you like to do?
So previously, I definitely would have said like a glorious mid-afternoon lazy run. That was my big, like, I can do it whenever I want kind of thing. Now that we're in this intense training, I might still say that, but I might not. So outside of that would be hiking with the pups, out somewhere, right, in nature, in the woods, maybe some time by the water, at the beach, or stand-up paddleboarding. And I love to eat outside. So one of the meals would be beverages and dinner outside, maybe at night with like the little lights, right, that they have. I just think that's super romantic and cute and just not every day. So that's probably some of my ideal day.
It sounds beautiful and very relaxing overall. Maybe not the intensive running, but that doesn't sound relaxing to me, but
the rest of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But wonderful day overall. And what is something an outsider wouldn't know about your industry?
So you might be able to relate to this. Coaching is not about advice giving. Coaching is about curiosity and asking the client questions. So if you are in a coaching relationship and the person is spewing advice and giving you homework or, is talking more than you are, it's more of a mentorship or a training, because coaching is all about you, the client. Our job is kind of to ask questions and have you see that you know the answer. And I find that's like the mental shift that people sometimes have to get when they come to coaching. They think I'm going to dispel all the answers of the world and they already have them.
You're like, why not? But you're right. It's all within. We just ask the right questions.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Rebecca, where can people find you, get your services? We're going to link everything below, but if you could let us know too.
So I'm on LinkedIn primarily. I'm also on Instagram. And then I have my website, moreispossiblecoaching.com. And that's my email, Rebecca@moreispossiblecoaching.com. So any of those work great. Yeah, I keep it minimal so that I'm actually hopefully on there doing it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for coming on today, sharing all the amazing things you're up to and really helping your clients just being what they want to be and doing what they want to do as well. But I so appreciate your time and your energy today.
Thank you. I appreciate you. This has been a lot of fun. I can't thank you. It's been fabulous. Very good.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. What was the biggest takeaway from Rebecca today? I'm sure she would love to see that comment. I'm sure she would respond as well. So make sure you leave it below and we'll see you on the next video.